Hello and welcome. In the last tutorial, I showed you how to trace generally. I showed you the automatic way you do it in Corel. I explained the limitations of that. I also showed you how to use your shape tool, your Bezier tool, and how to manipulate the nodes in order for us to be able to trace a picture like this. We started off by making sure the picture was locked so we don't accidentally select it. So right click and lock object, and right click anywhere on the object and unlock it when you want to move it around. I showed you how to do all of that. Now, that's all well and good. What next? How do we fill this with stones using the techniques we have learned? And the techniques we have learned involves circles on curves. Now, if all we wanted to do was to create an outline and not fill the circle, or rather fill the shape, very simply we just select any of the shapes. And remember, we need to make this 0.138. Keep the spacing at 0.17. And we click create circles, and fantastic. Our circles are created. We can now zoom in and start fixing all of these ones that are too close together. But in general, it did a fantastic job. Circles and curves. That's if what we want to do is to just, of course, we'll go in and fix all of these. If all we wanted to do was we'll go in and fix all of these points where they are touching. This one though, we'll just make it one line. So all we'll do is to ungroup this one and select all of the bottom circles here. All of these ones at the bottom, uncheck these or rather, no, duplicates. What have I done? Again, I'll select these, duplicate and drag it down. Oh, I unintentionally made this one. Oh, it doesn't follow. But anyway, it doesn't matter because this isn't what we want to do anyway. But you know, all we need to do is create a curved line, just one line, and use circles on curves to give this to. But this is pretty simple and almost anybody can do this. This isn't what we want. What we want is for us to have a feel using this. Now, this is where software would be handy, because what software will do would be to automatically just create a random field for us. Then all we have to do is arrange. The software that I have called Rhinestones, if I was designing this, of course, this isn't a paid this isn't a free software, or rather free extension. It's paid. So all I have to do is go into Rhinestones and click something called Island Fill and see it automatically does that. It doesn't really do what I want. That's why I talked about how in the very first class, one of the principles was there isn't 100% automation. This automates but doesn't do it perfectly. I still have to go in to adjust a bunch of things. But however, since it's already feeling for me, it takes away that stress for me already. So all I have to do is now go in and arrange. But you don't have our stones, and we have not gotten to the step of getting our stones yet. You need to understand the principles before you now decide whether you want our stones or not. And the things we've learned anyway are enough for us to do this. Now, it may not be enough for us to do it quickly. Remember, one of the advantages of softwares like Rhinestone, or rather extensions like Rhinestone, Circles on Curves, whether it's free or paid, is it enables us quicken what we are doing, makes it faster. So that's what it does. So it's not like we can't do it, but it makes it faster. Now, what we need, first of all, is to select this one. So what we need to do now is to use the technique we used before when we used contours. But instead of contours, we're going to use something else. Because sometimes that contour, especially when it comes to curves like this, it can be quite tricky. So the other technique that I use is what I call, we would remove circles on curves first. What we need is to create lines inside this. We could use contour. So where is contour? Let me just show you. So it's not like we can't use contour. If we apply contour, see, it creates those lines in between. But I don't want to use contour here. I want to use something else. So you have so many of these tools in your bag and can use it depending on what you want to do. So contour would have just been perfect. Just click apply and you know what next to do. Because what we're trying to do is to create lines inside it, which we can now use circles on curves to fill. Then now arrange it every way we want. But you see, with only one button, with Rhinestones, we already did that and not have to go through this process. See how Rhinestones makes life not you could say easier here because it makes it faster. So let's use the other technique that I have. The other technique is let's take this out of the way. I want us to duplicate this and move it out. Remember, I said whenever you alter something, just... So first thing we need to do is to change the stroke here from 1 to 10. Over time, I found out that, is it even 10? But let me be sure. So now that we've had this outline here, we come to objects, right? Then we click convert outline to object. Now let's remove the fill. Left click on this empty point and right click to give it an outline. So what do you notice? You can see that it created an outline, or rather it has given us two lines in and out. But now I think it may have increased the original line. Yes, it has. So what I normally do is this. On the original one, right? Change the outline. Okay, no, leave it as black. Now duplicate on it. Now your own duplication may have come somewhere away from it. If it did, just select the new one, select the old one, align it horizontally and vertically and horizontally, so they are on top of themselves. You could go and change the default to make sure the duplication stays on top of themselves. I believe we talked about it in one of the earlier classes. So if we select the one on top, change the outline to red so we can differentiate it from the original one. Now go here, select the red one. Of course, the red one will be the one selected because it's the one on top. Change the outline to 10. Then come to object, convert outline to object. Then change the fill to 0, nothing. Then change the outline to black. So now you can see we have this one. No, make sure that this is still red. Make sure this is still red. So the red one is the new one, the black one is the original one. So black is original. So you can see that there are two lines, although it's one shape. So to break these two lines apart, click this break apart. Now we can remove the outer one because that one is beyond where we want it to be. So you can see there's a perfect line inside our black. We don't need this one. We don't need this one. And we certainly do not need this one. So we've just done what contour would have done. Now you'll be asking, why did I use 10? Because I found over time that 10 would be able to give us that perfect space between the original line and the new line, so that when we create circles, they would not be outside the original, what's it called, boundary. So if we click create circles, you can see it's touching exactly on that. Can undo it. Now, of course, it has way too many nodes. So we can start deleting the ones that are not necessary and will not change the curvature that did. So that will not change the curvature too much, right? Remember what we did in when we did the hair. Now you can see why anyone doing this has to start from beginning. So I wouldn't need to have to explain a bunch of the things we've already gone over. So I'm just smoothing this out and removing all these unnecessary nodes so that circles are not created there that intersect, overlap, or touch themselves or come together. Whichever word you really want to use here. That changed. So let's change that one. Can we get away? No, we can't. And bum 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 bum. No, that changed. That didn't change. Did this change? This changed. Did this change? Yes. Did this change? Not so much. Leave it. This didn't change. This changed a bit. Remove this one. These are way too close. Remove that one. Perfect. Changed. That means we need to remove 2 of them. There are 3. I'll change this one. Ugh. It's just weird. You know, sometimes you could actually just delete it and come in and change the curvature yourself. Since now you know why we had to learn nodes and tracing, because we didn't trace this, but you can see how that knowledge has helped you. Now, if you look at this point, we didn't do a good job here, so it affected the inner circle that was made. So we can come here and fix this. Very annoying. Let's create a node here so we can delete this one. And do the same thing for the inner circle so we can delete this one. Aha, so we fixed it. We still need to get rid of this one. Okay. I think these two are too close together. And one of these needs to go. This, of course, needs to go. So we have our lines looking very well inside. So click. Let's go to circles and curves and click the inside. Create the inside. Now our lines are inside. Some of these circles are still touching each other because we couldn't escape that. Ungroup it. So we can now manually arrange this. This shouldn't be 1. It should be hairline so we can see it well. You can see that it's perfectly touching there. So that my system of using 10 as my width was or is spot on. That comes from months and months of practice. I found that to be the best width so we can create something inside. Okay. Now look at how much work we are going through that a single button solved in half stones. So when there are way too many circles here, and get rid of one and start shifting them one after the other, just eyeballing that space in between. This is where your ability to shift things comes into play. Now this is just weird. We can just get rid of this one and keep it pushing. We may have to fix this later on because it would have been better if it was here, then this one here, is this one here. But what it now does is that we now have to continue all the way. Should we fix it now? Now, this is where some of those things come up. So to fix this, what I would do is to delete everything here. What will I do next? I will go take my bezier handle and come. You can see anytime I take my bezier handle to the center of the circle, it changes and says center. If I click there, it creates a line that starts from the center of that circle. I can come down here and click this one too. It says center, and click in here, and it has created a line that starts from the center of this circle to the center of this circle. I could have just clicked and dragged and followed it, but I didn't want to. So now I can click any point, any of the two handles, or rather any of the two nodes of the line, and right click and click curve. Then I can now bend it to suit the red line curve because that's where I want it to be. It's not perfect. So what I can now do with this is this line, I can now use it to create another line of circles using create on curves. So now that I've done that, you can see that the spacing is now perfect. Remember to ungroup this and remove the line so that it's perfect. So this is how you could fix some of all these things that are coming in between. Here, I think you just need to get rid of one of the circles and rearrange this one this way. You could actually use the same thing I did. Just delete everything here. Take your Bezier tool. Remember, center of the circle. Come here, click center of the circle. Then you can now use to curve to bend it into the red one. Follow the curvature of the red circle, of the red line rather. Then click create circles on curves. Now the spacing is better, much better. So click on group so we can get rid of that line. Which other place needs our attention here? Now for here you need to pick, do you want this one to be gone or this one to be gone? I think this one. So it has a tail this way. Now you could say there's still space here, so drag this one here as close as it can be. Then of course use the same technique that I've used earlier to get rid of all of this by trying to rearrange the what's it called, the spacing in between. So instead of us dragging one after the other, we can just use circles and curves to enable us get that spacing more accurately. Now click create circles and curves. Perfect. So we don't need to worry. Oh, there's always one that is created on top of the original circle, so try and get rid of that one too. I think we didn't do that for the other ones. That's it. Really, the last one was here. For this one, I think this was the one. And for this one, this was the one. So we don't have circles on top of themselves. Let's fix this. Now, this one is quite thin. So we need to pick one of the two circles one of the two lines of what's it called, circles can't work here. This line is too thin to accommodate them, so we are only going to take one. Then we'll place these ones in the center here. Now this is where all our horizontal alignment. So if we click this and where is our align and distribute, and we click distribute space horizontally, you can see it automatically distributed. So fine. This one needs a circle here, but it has now created space here that we can now push. We can now decide to shift it up and down, or use the technique that we just learned. Delete all of this as far as you can go and just create a new line. Bend this as much as you can and just click create circles on curves. It has created it. Oh no, that means that the original line was not at the center. See, it wasn't at the center, so I can drag it and come to the center here. Okay, it's even good that we are closer so I can see it well. Drag this up here across, select the whole thing, and we can get rid of the original circles. Now on group so that we can get rid of the new line. We need to do the same thing here. So delete all of this. Make sure it's center. Make sure you start from the center of the circle. It's not showing us, I guess, because that node is in the way, but I think we should be okay. We'll not know until we've done create. Okay. Wow, okay. So we've fixed all of those circles touching each other. Oh yeah, there's one that should be going from here like this way. Yeah. So we need another one that goes from here this way. Now I'm looking at that our decision to do this. I think we may where is that supposed to stop again? So we could as well just do another line here and not necessarily do two lines here. And even this one as well needs another line inside. Oh, that was because when we were doing this, we didn't consider this inner part. Okay, no, we did, but because it touched each other, we kind of ignored it. Okay, that will come into well, we'll do that when we're filling these inner parts. Now, this isn't enough, obviously, because we've not filled it. So one of the ways we can do this is to just manually start duplicating circles and putting them to fill all these places one after the other, because creating another line may not using our duplication of the what's it called, the outlines may not work, because you know this isn't a straightforward what's the word now, straightforward shape. So we can just start by one after the other. I use distribute vertically here, so we just keep duplicating one after the other. The first thing we need to get right is the outer shape, outer lines rather, outer shape, and you just keep duplicating and duplicating and maintaining. Now if you notice, what we're doing is that we're kind of trying to follow a 3 circle kind of feel, so 3 circles somewhere in between. Something we may get to some points where you only have 3 circles may not be enough. I am not so comfortable with this space. Let's see as much as we can try and close that space. Some of these spaces, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to just leave it that way. Just make it not so obvious. Now, we could decide that we want to follow this, draw a line here, use a bezier handle to draw a line from here to here, but it will take away from what I'm trying to show you. So let's just keep feeling till we get to the bottom. This is the boring part of rhinestone design, this feeling part. But of course, like I said, with a paid software like Rhinestones and others, it will automatically do all this filling for you and you don't have to do it yourself. So you can see there's now more space, that the 3 now seems like it's insufficient, but I would say let's continue using 3 because 4 would be too tight. It would be too close together, but it's something we could explore. But no, if you keep the distances kind of like you would understand, it will still look good with the curvature. You know, the interesting thing is that since I have started using this image in my design, you can see how it's flowing downwards. So now you can do things like select the entire 3, duplicate, and just position it in such a way. As I was saying, I don't think I've ever actually filled this thing manually like this. I've always used, what is it called, Rhinestones to do the heavy lifting. Then from there, I go in and arrange the way I want. That's how I do this. I've never actually done this before. So it's great for you to see me. So every time, just zoom out to make sure you're on track. I think we made the right decision not to make this 4 circles. I think it gives it a unique look. Now, that's one of the reasons why, even though we may have 2 lines, the same design that we are working from, we will not get the same results in rhinestone artistry. So you could see the same vector design, but 2 different rhinestone artists will give it. It will look, it's a rhinestone design, but if you look closely, you will be able to tell. In fact, I think I've gotten to the point where I know my design when I see them because of the way I design. I know my designs when I see them. There are some people I make designs for, and when I see them, I know, even when I don't remember, oh, did I make this design for this person or not? When I see certain ways in which the lines curved, I know that this design is mine. Or the spacing in between the circles. Of course, you could just grab all of this and do, what's it called? Vertical, horizontal alignment. You see, this is where all that alignment comes into play. You could as well just drag it one by one, or you could just select all 3 and use your alignment. That is why we started off learning how to align. This is, I remember always mentioning to everyone who I teach that we'll get to the point where you just see me do things and I'm expecting that you know that this is what I've done because of those earlier classes. We are getting to the point where 3 is no longer enough. This usually becomes a dilemma because you see these 3, they are too close. Now, one way is that if you look at this, this isn't really following this line. So we could just shove these ones to the edge a bit, then zoom in. Sometimes you could get away with them. They are not necessarily touching, but being very close to each other like this. This kind of violates one of our principles. I'm not going to mention what it is. Go back to the original class. and look at what our principles of rhinestone design artistry. So now, after these ones have come so close, I can't put another one so close. So now we now have to go back to just 2. Now select this 2 and duplicate. Now go back and find out what principle have we kind of violated here. And I remember saying that there would come a time when it's perfectly normal to violate that principle. This is one of such times. And I showed you samples of where those principles were not completely adhered to. Now, even 2 is becoming difficult to fill. Now, there are different ways we could handle this. We could move this here and move this here. So they don't necessarily touch, but what has that done? That has created a problem here that we now need to move this here. Then we now have so much space here. This is where the thing kind of comes to head. So one way would be to just, let's see. Let's see what's the best thing we can do here. Can we move this up a bit? Move this here. So we can, can we squeeze in? Is it possible? Let's see. Okay, I like the way that's coming out. Okay, yeah, I guess we can get away with that. No, but now that creates another one. We have to end up finding, wait, hold on, let's see if, because we still need it to end up being 1 anyway. 2 would not work in all of this space. Aha, we need this one to kind of flow into what is going on here. So I think we will end this and just leave this space here. There's a great space here. We need to close up. Close up. Close up. Close up. Close up. Now these are just individual design decisions that you can decide how you want it to go. I still feel one should be here, but all these are too close. So you know what we'll do? We'll shift this a little bit outside. So you can see we are breaking so many rules here. So many rules. We're breaking so many rules so that this works. And somehow we have made it work. This is the part of rhinestone design that is just pure, what's it called? Intuition. Follow your intuition when you get to places like this. Just follow what looks nice. Now these ones have to change just slightly so that everything works on this side. Now we're just playing the game of eyeballs to make sure the thing works perfectly. This is the part that you can't really teach, can only show. So we bent that into this point. I'm not liking that the curvature didn't follow what I wanted to do, but I'm still happy with it. I'm happy with the results. I could, now if you see the one I did, I will show you the one I did with, what's it called? Arstones. It didn't do all of this, of course. What it did was that it tried to follow the curvatures, so it didn't have this problem. It just followed one, eliminated one. In fact, let's kind of do that. I don't like how this is going. Let's follow one curvature and ignore some of these things here. So what do we want to do here? Okay, if we're following curvature, it cannot be from the center. It has to be from the side here, so that it looks like it's flowing like this and flowing in. We could put one more here and just end that line there. Okay.
Beats!